interesting comment I saw when it came to a live stream was the fact of the topic of game releases and how long they take. With one person in the chat feeling like, well, even if a game takes so long to come out, it'll eventually come out so people can still play and enjoy it. But the streamer argued if a game takes long to come out, the interest for it dies out and everything to a point where people won't even remember it or even care about it. And like both sides of this are true and interesting, so I wanted to go over this topic, especially since many people are really hating games being announced early. First off is the idea of the fact of games would usually take 2 to 4 years to release. Now sometimes will take 5 to 7 years, and can be announced so early that there wasn't even much made when it was revealed. Sometimes done to actually recruit new employees who would want to work on such a project, but nowadays people get upset by it despite having the abundance of so many games releasing more than ever. But at the same time, because so many games release more than ever, that's where the attention and interest problem starts coming in. Because so many games come out, by the time the thing we're waiting so long to release happens, there could be so many other things you have more interest in surrounded by it, and be like, yeah, but what about this, and this? Like, just for me alone, there are still several games I've yet to even pick up this year. Like, I didn't even originally intend to pick up Resident Evil Requiem, but I did, and because I did, I couldn't pick up the game that I waited years for, Pragmata, which is just the irony. The one that I waited longer to finally see what it looks like, it's interesting in the teaser, and it come out, played the demo, had fun, but then it came out after RE Requiem, and I was like, well, I gotta pick one or the other, so I picked RE Requiem. But that's also the same time to pick between, Fatal Frame 2's remake, or Mega Man Star Force Collection, and, well, the video showcase, I picked the Star Force Collection over it. So many games developers are fighting for people's attention, especially if their games designed to try and get you hooked into that one game entirely. Like if you're playing like an MMO or a live service game that wants you playing the game longer and longer than other things, how to try and get your attention, everything going on. But just back to releases, and they take so long to come out, other things may get your interest. And it's like, it's true. The game did come out and now it's available, but it's the question of, will the person still care about the game by the time it comes out? I mean, we already have Final Fantasy Versus 13 and 15 example of, this took so long to come out, it's an entirely different game. I've seen people recently trying to praise Square Enix because of, look, Final Fantasy VII Remake came out in 2020, Rebirth 2024, and now Revelation is set for 2027. That's a pretty good turnaround time for 3 AAA spin-offs. The problem with that example is that 7 Remake was announced in 2015, showed off its gameplay, restarted development on its gameplay, and then came out in 2020. So just using the goalpost when Remake came out is not exactly fair. On top of the fact it is the same developers that decided to remake the character models for the main cast between Remake and Rebirth, which was also unnecessary. But now they should get praised because, Revelation's coming out, so assumingly there's no delays, 3 years after Rebirth, and on top of the fact of, look guys, we're not gonna switch from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5. Applaud us. Look, we realize keeping the same dev team across games is actually a smarter idea. It means games can be released more efficiently. Applaud us for having common sense now. Another aspect is also the long time between releases, which again, people will think will come out eventually. That's true, but with Final Fantasy as the example, look at Final Fantasy 13. If you did not like Final Fantasy 13, tough shit, that was all you had for many years to come if you're only interested in single-player Final Fantasy games. You liked MMOs, you had 14. But in between 13 and 15, was such a long period. Hell, even between 14 to 15 was such a long period that was all you got. There are people whose entire childhood was just Final Fantasy 13 or Final Fantasy 15 in the wait between 15 and 16. Yeah, there are spin-offs being made, although now they make lesser and lesser, but they're fixing that. But it's just a whole entire aspect where that one entry was now all you had from the franchise for years to come, when the franchise used to have more entries being made, whether spin-off or mainline, around 1 to 2 year cycle usually. So you can see why some people has issue of the next entry taking so long to release. And you also have arguments of, well, people can play the other IPs that the company has, which I do. I play the Octopath games, I play Star Ocean, I play the Mana series, I play a bunch of stuff by Square Enix, some of the more even niche stuff that people don't really touch, but it's one of those things where you want Final Fantasy to mainline entry, well, you're going to keep on waiting because now they take so long to produce, especially when they have other projects like some remake project that takes so much time to make and is a massive undertaking because of the scope they're going for what's essentially a trilogy of spin-offs. Mega Man franchise, another example where you used to have entire entries of Mega Man game that were several sub-series being made simultaneously. On the same day you got X7, you also got 02, I believe, which was a case of oversaturation, but it's a fact that if you were a fan of multiple sub-series of Mega Man, you generally got them coming out around the same time, everything going on. It once again led to too much Mega Man, so not the best example, dial it back, but it's one of those things where you like X, you still got the X series. Like Battle Network, still have Battle Network series. Like the Zero games, which are a sequel to the X series, well, you got Zero games, so on and so forth. And 2017, you got The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a Wii U title that also had a Switch version release. And then it's like, okay, what's up between that? Link's Awakening Remake? Alright, pretty cool. Skyward Sword HD Remaster? Alright, nice. Age of Calamity as well, which is another Breath of the Wild game, but okay, a pretty much spin-off to go along with it. Okay, Hero Wars Definitive Edition? Alright, what else do you got? Tears of the Kingdom eventually came out online, the much-lauded sequel that came out several years after releasing in 2023. And what was the end result of this game that people waited so long to release? A game that was too similar to Breath of the Wild at points. I still like Tears of the Kingdom. I think it's better than Breath of the Wild. But many people made the joke of it felt like DLC. I would not go that far and say I felt like DLC, but it's just the fact that it felt too similar to Breath of the Wild since the direct sequel, so we're reusing the same locales, and it didn't really feel it was different really enough to really be like, hey, we had like a 6-year dev cycle for this entry. Now granted, a lot of that had to do with stuff like the Ultra Hand mechanics and fleshing that out aspect, but just a whole entire thing of, once again, you had to wait 6 years between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom if you only cared about those big budget releases, and what you got was basically a game that's another entry in the Wild series, and that feels too similar, and then what to do afterwards? Make Age of Imprisonment on Switch 2 another Wild entry, bringing it up to 4. You can see why some are sick of the Breath of the Wild games, but some are also like, they can do one more, just don't take 6 years to make it. Like, there were other releases made in between. We can see how much of it relied specifically on the world of Breath of the Wild specifically. So you're someone that's not into Breath of the Wild, well, all you have left is a remasters of older games, a remake of an older one, and that's about it, with some just hoping, including me included, they just move on to something new, which they did with Echoes of Wisdom, but move on new when it comes to what new Switch 2 game. Who the shit am I kidding? They announced Ocarina of Time remake. Using Mario's example, yes, Super Mario Odyssey also was 2017. And if all you cared about specifically was 3D Mario, specifically that is all you had interest, Well, you're still waiting because they haven't released a new 3D Mario game. Which, forget it, a lot of people, they focus on how many spin-offs got made, new entries, other stuff, the fact that the Mario and Luigi games got a new entry which people didn't think would happen, new Paper Mario, new sports titles, we got a new Mario Kart, got the Rabbids game, plenty of stuff. But if all you cared about is 3D Mario, then you can see why someone would be upset that there hasn't been a new 3D Mario since then. Even if some feel like they're satisfied because Donkey Kong Bonanza came out. It's not a Mario game, but people love that game. So I feel like, you know what? Won't wait longer for 3D Mario because you made a banger here. It also feels frustration with Tales of fans because of the fact that the Tales of series used to get a new entry every 1 to 2 years or so. Just ignore how many entries ever got localized. Ignore that part. Ignore that part. Okay, moving on. And then you had Tales of Arise, an entry that took 5 years to develop, came out, had mixed reception, whatever. Then, like a year or so later, then had a DLC expansion, okay, and then it was cricket since then, and people were like, what happened to the Tales of franchise? Even if in reality it hasn't been actually that long. It's just the fact that when a series used to get so many releases, this starts to now surprise people. Like, it hasn't been actually been that long. The same thing happened with Devil May Cry fans, and in between Devil May Cry, well, DLC Devil May Cry, the reboot, and then also the release of Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition and the reboot's Definitive Edition, where people were like, we spent so long without a new Devil May Cry game, and you actually didn't. You did it at all. Another aspect to games taking so long to make is also the aspect of the expectations increase. When a game takes so long to make, people start thinking the game's gonna be grander or bigger, or now has to do X, Y, or Z thing because of how much grander it's trying to be. Like Spider-Man 2 by Insomniac Games, despite, well, I like Spider-Man 2 by Insomniac Games, it's the fact that it was a game that was a poster child of not having any news associated with it for so long, and the final release, well, people generally like it. You'll find a lot of critics on YouTube, and I agree with their points to say about it, but it's the fact that it took so long to release, to expect something bigger, and instead it's actually smaller if you go by the main missions themselves than the first title actually was. Even in reality, the scope of the map is actually way bigger and everything, so you can see where the scope is bigger some places, but other places it feels smaller. At the time of this video, we still know basically nothing about Naughty Dog's new title Intergalactic, aside from the one teaser trailer that was all just a CG trailer, so in reality, it didn't show anything. It's been about 2 years since it got announced. Some people are like, yo, is gonna do anything about this game? And there was a comment by, not sure if they're a former developer of Naughty Dog, but someone who has experience in game development, telling people to basically shut up, saying that the effort that goes into a trailer disrupts work so much that they feel like Naughty Dog are doing the right decision by not just making a trailer to satiate the public's curiosity and info, and that by just working on the game, it's going better. To which I once again say, with its current state of just having a CG trailer, all I can say is, what game? I have not seen no game, I have seen no gameplay, so therefore, there is no game, at least to me, and I keep forgetting Intergalactic even exists, because so far right now, it's just vaporware. Hell, they could cancel the project at any day now, and I still be in the same position of, well, there was no game, so, I don't know. Until the second Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer came out, you have Kingdom Hearts fans going nuts about the idea of what's going on, development falling apart, what's happening, where's Kingdom Hearts 4, oh my god. It's like, yeah, Kingdom Hearts had many spin-off titles in between main entries, well, basically the big entries coming out, but it's one of those things where people were flipping out, and my brother asked me, so how long has it been since KH4 got announced? I was like, 4 years. And then he went, really? They're flipping out over 4 years. It's like, for a Kingdom Hearts fan, that's a lot. But you also have Bayonetta 3 that got revealed in 2017 and didn't come out until 2022. Which, yeah, it's also a longer period. And also the fact of, it was Bayonetta 3, which, that's I know Bayonetta 3 has its fans, but I don't like Bayonetta 3. The gameplay took a step backwards, mostly because the enemies are just the most dull enemies that they've made in the main entries. Like, I just find it boring, kind of thing. But it's like a longer time. Or people complain about the wait between Persona 5's teaser and the whole entire thing of, it kept freaking taking so long to come out. Its teaser was in 2013, and the game came out in 2016. Once again, not actually that long, but people flip out, and it's like, the average Legend of Zelda development cycle takes longer than that. And mind you, I'm just naming big games that people had their eyes on. It doesn't even include stuff like indie development, like the fact of, oh, an indie game that I backed years ago and enjoyed was Regalia of Men and Monarch by Pixelated Milk. And they had a second Kickstarter for their next title, Sacrifice. Well, it's like, alright, I'm interested in this. So that Kickstarter campaign happened in 2021. And the game has still yet to release, and it's still ongoing development, with them updating the backers, which is a plus of Kickstarter, is the fact that you generally get to know what the holdup is, something you don't get with more major releases that aren't using crowdfunding. So the whole entire thing where, yeah, I get informed when the thing gets delayed, it takes longer to come out, but also the fact that it is taking so long to release, and that doesn't include other Kickstarter games that I have yet to play and backed, but that's besides the point. But either way, that's focusing on indie titles that can also take so long for one reason or another. And yes, there are various reasons for why a game could take so long to come out. Not just scope and everything, but also having to deal with the bureaucracies of a business and how long it takes to make even simple changes, has to go through so many people unnecessarily, because God forbid people just do things simple and everything like that. But it's still one of those things where at some point you're risking interest in your game just completely falling apart. That's why I also make trailers to remind people, get them interested. It's why I find it dumb people complain that, why did this game make another trailer at this point? Because they're trying to remind you it still exists, it's still coming, and they want you to buy it. If they don't market the thing, you won't know about it, and people who think games that get several trailers is a complaint that there's just make so many trailers. I think y'all people are foolish and don't understand the point of marketing. And yes, there are many games that have long dev cycles, and they're still successful. Tales of the Rise was still a big success, although took a while for it to get the huge success label it has nowadays. Pragmata, right before that game came out and had previews, there were people going, you don't even know anything about Pragmata, why do y'all guys care about it? There's nothing to care about. And then they got made to play it and went, ah crap, it's actually real good. And was a big success, so good that worked out. Hollow Knight Silksong was one of the faces of people hoping to see more of it in every single presentation, and then they got it, and it was a massive success, and people enjoyed it. So it's one of those things where taking so long to release isn't guaranteed to fail. It's just one of those whole entire things where you start risking things when so many other things come out around it. Granted, Silksong also had the boon of it being $20, but that's besides the point. I mean, look how many people are still highly anticipating Grand Theft Auto 6. I believe had like 6 to 8 years of full development specifically, but people are still excited about everything, even though if I check the trailers, I don't see an ounce of gameplay whatsoever, which is why I'm not interested, because I have seen nothing what the game actually gonna play like whatsoever. I mean, sure, I can assume from past games, but I don't want to do that. And the whole entire thing where it's like, people are still excited for it. People keep making jokes of, insert thing happened before Grand Theft Auto 6. And it's like, yeah, it's a long development time. Yeah, it's a long wait and everything going on. But people are clearly still excited for it. It's not as if it's a death knell for a game because it takes so long to release. It's just the risk of things end up losing interest or gets buried by other releases. I just want to wrap up on a topic because of people lamenting how games didn't take this long to release, despite there being also so many options that could take their attention. Or just the fact of certain franchises can't capitalize on the new fans they make if they take so long to release the next game that the fans have already moved on or grown older or whatever, etc. by the time the next one actually even comes out. I was talking about games with the long dev cycles. Sometimes the developers just don't have an idea for a new entry or whatsoever. Like the Neptunia franchise was in spin-off hell for so long because they just didn't really have an idea for a new main entry until earlier this year. You also had the Kagura franchise that also had so many spin-off games, but was preparing for the next mainline title, the next big one, and then it never came out. But they never officially canceled at the same time, so maybe one day. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond eventually came out to a resounding, it's alright. At least that's all I've seen people say about it. Yeah, my friend who was hyped for it to no end hasn't finished it yet, and he really should get back to doing that. But it's one of the one-time things where Metroid Prime 4 took so long to make, including up to restart development, but that's also a case of the fact of, hey, they had to try and salvage certain aspects of the project, and people expected it to be bigger and grander than what they ended up getting with how long it took to make. The longer you take, the higher the expectations people have for the game, because they just assume more time means more polish, and not that more time means needing to rebuild stuff, restructure stuff, salvage ideas, etc. Dragon Quest XII also had a long wait to its reveal, and they also, after revealing it, said they restarted development, so the original pitch of Dragon Quest XII that they had will no longer be a Dragon Quest XII that is being developed and will later release, which upset some people because, like Versus 13, they cared about what the pitch originally was, Dragon Quest XII, even if there wasn't much of a pitch, but people cared about that rather than what is currently going on now. So once again, it took so long to reveal it, and then you're now sorry, it's an entirely different game now. Our bad. Capcom has been doing a good job of now revealing games closer to when they're going to release, so the long wait isn't actually a long wait, it's more of a short wait everything. So some companies have been making more strides to only announce the game relatively close to its release date, so the wait isn't that long, but you still have some developers who need the attention immediately, so they have to reveal it earlier in order to get more buzz, get more people to work on the game, etc, etc. And I can understand where they're coming from when they do it, but as a consumer, I'll also kind of be like, oh, this game ain't coming out no time soon. I was excited when they announced Stellar Blade Blood Rain, and they said, oh, this game won't be coming out anytime soon or in development. It's like, oh, goody, I gotta wait a while. Technically not a delay, but I'm gonna count it anyway. It's also the fact that some games will release first digitally and then months later get a physical copy. And, like, used to just be usually for, like, indie titles or even, like, Kickstarter titles, like, make more sense. But in other cases, like, oh, Daring Deluxe Remaster released digitally first and then physically. Super Bomberman Collection released digitally first and then physically. Metroid Prime Remaster also did the same thing, so it's one of those also cases where technically not a delay if you're a person only going for that physical copy, then technically your version was in fact delayed because of the fact that the company just decided to release it later than the digital release everything. But while PlayStation has their way, they'll kill off every physical game. Because I'm still not over that fact. That's still happening, and they still have their first course. So I've got to mention that again. So it's also a little weird thing where the physical copy comes out later and everything kind of thing. Or even like digital deluxe editions where the digital version ends up getting released technically like 3 to potentially like a week early because they want to give an extra incentive to releasing the game and everything. Meanwhile, everybody else technically has to get a delay of a few days, everything. Once again, these aren't counted as delays, but they technically function as a delay in what happens. So there's a deluxe edition that also works the wrong way. People end up buying it because, oh, I get the game a couple of days early, which means the actual release date isn't the actual release date. It is now technically the game being delayed because the digital deluxe release date is now the real release date. Narcissu 10th Anniversary Project. Now, while this was a Kickstarter project to compile a bunch of games made by Stage Nana and did release on PC digitally, in 2016, they not only announced that they're going to make a PS4 and Vita version, but also a physical release, working with limited run games to get it done, and that will come out in 2017. As Sam mentioned in this video, it has not happened at all. In fact, it has gone so long without much updates of the fact that it now changed its name to the 10th Anniversary Project to Narcissu Lumiere Eternelle Edition instead. So they changed their name, meaning they're still working on it. However, there's still practically been no updates. In fact, Sakai Project actually on their website allows you to see the status of their projects and what they're doing, with this game's last update being December 22nd, 2025. There's no stats on what they're currently doing, but it does show you the work they've currently had done. The problem with this, because you may go, oh, they're getting close to done based on the status. That's the thing. They actually haven't. Because I actually have a tweet thread chronicling all the updates and stuff, and when they updated it to say last updated December 22nd, 2025, previously before that, it was last updated with the same thing in September 25th, 2021. With the same status, everything. The only difference is that it said it was in QA, and now it says nothing. In fact, this game has had so little in terms of updates that if you were to Google Narcissu Lumiere Eternelle Edition, one of the first results is my tweet thread about the thing. I am one of the few human beings who still gives a shit, to the point where I am one of the first search results when you look up the game by seeing my tweet thread that I will keep updating and tracking and everything. Because this project it's never been cancelled or anything. They just haven't spoken about it since like 2021, I guess. Even though in reality, that's just a project on their website. When it comes to actual PR talk, hasn't been talked about since the name change everything. So I'm just keeping track. I feel like the one person keeping track of this game will still come out, and part of me is like, yo, Sakai Project, if you just announced that it's cancelled, at least just said something and decided to make it a statement. But here, it hasn't been cancelled. It's technically still ongoing. There's just been no answer in sight whatsoever, to the point where I'm not one of the first results on Google. Senran Kagura 7 has also never been officially cancelled. People feel like it's effectively cancelled because of the fact that in the most recent years, all Senran Kagura has been doing is making mobile titles, and that's pretty much it. And the series creator, Kenichiro Takaki, left to Sai Games years ago and everything. So people feel like it's effectively cancelled, but it's never been officially cancelled. With some of the reasonings for why the project basically got development hell is, one, it's the first time they're actually making a brand new game and not just actually reusing the assets they had before for a new game, on top of the fact of they had issues with it came to PlayStation and how PlayStation started having stricter but also vague policies on what people were allowed to put in their games and everything, to the point where some games like Senran Kagura Burst Renewal or Senran Kagura X Neptunia basically had changes only for the PlayStation version, And when people thought it's just ditched the PlayStation format, they also said they can't. That's where a chunk of their fan base also is as well. So it wouldn't be lucrative to just act as if PlayStation fan base doesn't exist anymore. So it ended up being this one entire weird case where PlayStation stricter rules that they've commented are pretty vague ends up damaging what they could do, and then eventually just got halted. Like, there may have been more going on with development hell. That's just the only stuff we know publicly, so we don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. With the fact that effectively people believe it's cancelled even though it's never been officially cancelled. Much like I just mentioned with Narcissu Eternia Lumiere Edition, check out that backwards, they never officially outright said they're cancelling the project, so people feel like there is still a chance it could still happen one of these days. Excuse me, but I am still baffled that freaking Ushio from Level 5, a game that was originally slated to come out in 2008 on the PSP, is still being worked on technically. With the last time I heard, they said they were gonna possibly potentially make it for the Nintendo Switch, but now they're eyeing up the Switch 2 as a possible platform for the game. I repeat, this game was supposed to come out in 2008 on the PlayStation Portable, and technically has still never actually been cancelled. They're still talking about it, still thinking about it, still pondering where to put the game if they ever even release it. And it is so crazy to me that he's been going on for that long. And I know someone's gonna say, what about Duke Nukem Forever and Beyond Good and Evil 2? To which I say, Beyond Good and Evil 2 was just vaporware, and Duke Nukem Forever did eventually come out, but this one still has not been cancelled. Also, Duke Nukem Forever also had more actual gameplay shown in the earlier version as well, showing that people weren't working on it. Here, I'm not even sure there was even much of anything for this game, and they're still like, maybe Switch 2 will be the platform for Ushio. And now we also got an update that freaking Project Awakening by Side Games is still being developed. This thing was announced in 2016 for like the PS4, and they're still working on it. I keep remembering that thing existing and being, man, must have been just some tech demo and nothing more. And they're like, nah, man, we are still working on that thing. That thing still has a chance to come out, and it's like, what? Like, see the legs in which games being developed for in development, how and everything, on top of the fact that freaking Garnet Arena Magistry is also still being developed. They got, I know it's in 2021, it's not too long ago, but still, it's just like, they're like, hey, these games that you ever heard anything about in a while, don't worry, we're still doing it, and everything. It's like, so crazy to me. Like, the last time I heard anything about Project freaking Awakening by Side Games was when freaking Kenichiro Takaki was like one of the main people behind Senran and Kagura, ended up joining Side Games, which he's also working on freaking Garnet Arena Magistry, but still, Project Awakening is still being developed? Y'all still working on it, haven't given up on it? Damn! This unironically gives hope to the freaking people who think Deep Down by Capcom still coming out. Some say Deep Down just became Dragon's Dogma? Who knows at this point? Maybe they are still working on it and it will come out. Maybe there's still hope that something Kagura 7 will still come out, even though that hasn't had any updates since 2018. Who knows at this point if such stuff like this can be like, yeah, it's still working on it. We're still going. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So I just wanted to ramble about this whole entire topic when it comes to just game releases taking so long. Like, yes, there are various reasons for why a game takes long to release, but also just don't be shocked if some people just completely move on by the time it comes out because so many other things have released that have their attention on what's going on. Like, will they go back to play it? Maybe. Maybe they're still excited they'll buy it day one. Maybe they'll wait down the road like I have to do because, well, I already missed the release of Pragmata Fatal Frame 2 Remake. Might as well wait till they get cheaper because well, I have no reason to buy it right now. So I got some on the topic. Alright then, go out there, play games, whether they come out with their announcement, or whether they take years to come out and end up living up to the excitement of that long wait. I just hope the game doesn't end up being a disappointment for you because of the long wait, and especially if it sucks if you were waiting for a next entry of something, and the last entry you've been stuck with has been waiting, cared for, and that's just all you get. Alright then, good day.